He had been waiting for this day for weeks. The chance to interview for a job he had dreamed of was finally here, and he wanted everything to be perfect. He woke up early, took a long shower, and dressed in his best outfit, making sure his shoes were polished and his shirt was neat. He had memorized the answers to common interview questions, rehearsed his introduction in front of the mirror, and felt a mix of excitement and nerves. This job meant more than just a paycheck. It was a chance to prove himself, to step out of the struggles of his past, and finally feel like he was moving forward. As he left his small apartment, the sun was just beginning to rise, casting a warm glow over the quiet streets. He walked briskly toward the bus stop, checking his watch every few seconds. He had planned his timing carefully, leaving early to avoid being late. Yet even with all his preparation, he couldn't shake the feeling that something could go wrong. Life had a way of throwing curveballs at him, and he had learned to expect the unexpected. He reached the main road, his mind focused entirely on the interview. He visualized himself sitting in the office, confidently answering every question and leaving the interviewers impressed. He pictured the offer letter in his hand, the relief of finally securing a stable job, and the pride in his family's eyes when he told them the news. The thought of finally being able to help his younger siblings with school supplies and bills made him quicken his pace. He couldn't afford to miss this opportunity. Then, just a few blocks from the bus stop, he noticed an elderly man struggling by the side of the road. His car was pulled over awkwardly, the hood slightly open, and he was kneeling beside a flat tire with a confused, worried look on his face. The young man slowed down, glancing at his watch. He had 15 minutes to catch the bus, which meant he was already cutting it close. Panic flitted across his mind. He couldn't risk missing this interview. Every second counted, and yet, something about the man's helpless expression made him stop. He hesitated for a moment, weighing his options. He could walk past, focus on his future, and let someone else help. That would be the practical choice. But his heart told him otherwise. He remembered the struggles he had faced growing up, the times when a small act of kindness had made a huge difference in his life. He couldn't just ignore someone who clearly needed help. Without overthinking it, he approached the man. "Excuse me, sir," he said gently. "Do you need some help with your tire?" The elderly man looked up, relief washing over his face. "Oh yes, thank you. I don't know what I would have done without someone stopping. I've never changed a tire before," he admitted, his voice tinged with embarrassment. The young man smiled, trying to reassure him. "Don't worry about it. I can help you. Let's get this fixed quickly." He knelt beside the car, assessing the situation. The tire was completely flat. The spare tire in the trunk looked old but usable, and the jack was slightly rusted. He rolled up his sleeves and got to work. The old man stood nearby, watching with a mix of gratitude and admiration, occasionally offering to hold a tool or pass a wrench, but mostly staying out of the way. As he worked, the young man tried to lighten the mood. "You know, it's funny how life works sometimes. We plan everything perfectly, and then something like this happens." The old man chuckled softly. "That's true. But maybe it's a reminder to slow down sometimes," he said. The young man laughed, but his mind was partially on the clock. He knew he was going to be late, but the thought of leaving the man stranded made him push that worry aside. Changing the tire was harder than he expected. The old jack wouldn't lift the car smoothly, and the lug nuts were stiff and difficult to remove. His hands became greasy and sore, but he didn't give up. Step by step, he managed to loosen the nuts, lift the car, and remove the flat tire. During the process, the old man shared a little about his life. He talked about how he had retired recently and was trying to run some errands before meeting a friend. The young man listened politely, offering encouragement and small talk to keep the man's spirits up. He felt a strange sense of calm in this unexpected encounter, as if the universe had given him a moment to connect with someone in a real, meaningful way. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the new tire was in place. The young man tightened the lug nuts, lowered the car, and checked that everything was secure. He stepped back, wiping his hands on a cloth, and the old man smiled warmly. "I can't thank you enough," he said. "You went out of your way for a stranger, and that means more than you know." The young man glanced at his watch again. He was already 20 minutes late for the bus, and his chances of making the interview seemed slim. A pang of anxiety hit him, but he quickly pushed it down. "It's no problem at all. I hope you have a good day," he said sincerely. The old man's eyes twinkled. "You're a good person. Don't ever let anyone make you feel otherwise." The young man nodded, feeling a mix of pride and nervousness. He waved goodbye and started running toward the bus stop, hoping he could still catch it. His heart was racing, both from the physical exertion and the fear of what awaited him at the company. He replayed the encounter in his mind, wondering if he had made the right decision. Part of him worried that he had just sabotaged his own future, but another part felt a deep sense of satisfaction. He had done the right thing, and somehow that mattered more than the clock. When he finally reached the bus stop, he saw the bus pulling away. His stomach sank. He had missed it by mere seconds. He knew that the next bus would take longer, and the delay might make him miss the interview entirely. He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. The morning had started perfectly, and now it felt like everything was falling apart. He considered turning around and giving up, thinking maybe he could try again another day, but the memory of the old man's grateful smile reminded him why he had stopped. He couldn't regret helping someone in need, even if it cost him something he wanted desperately. As he waited for the next bus, he reflected on life's unpredictability. He realized that even the best-laid plans could change in an instant, and that sometimes doing the right thing didn't come with immediate rewards. He tried to focus on the small victories, the flat tire fixed, the man safe, and the knowledge that he had made a positive difference. When the bus finally arrived, he climbed aboard, still worried but determined to keep moving forward. The city passed by in a blur as he thought about the interview, rehearsing answers in his head despite the setback. Deep down, he knew that whether he got the job or not, he had already shown strength of character. He had made a choice that aligned with his values, and that mattered more than punctuality or luck. He didn't know it yet, but this small act of kindness would have consequences he could never have imagined. The morning had started as just another day, a simple path toward a job interview, and ended with an encounter that would change the course of his life. He felt a strange mixture of anxiety and hope, not realizing that his decision to help the old man was the first step toward an opportunity bigger than he had ever dreamed of. As the bus rumbled through the streets, he stared out the window, letting the rhythm of the ride settle his thoughts. He watched people rushing by, some smiling, some lost in their own worries, and thought about how everyone had their struggles. Perhaps this encounter was a reminder that kindness mattered more than ambition alone. Perhaps it was a lesson that life's timing didn't always match our expectations, but sometimes it had a better plan in store. He held on to that thought as he approached the office district, wondering what the day would bring. Little did he know, the man he had helped that morning was not just anyone. He was about to play a role in the young man's future in ways that would surpass any interview or resume. But for now, the young man focused on what he could control: his attitude, his effort, and his willingness to face life with courage and compassion. Even though he had missed the bus and was running late, he felt a quiet confidence. He had chosen humanity over haste, and somehow, that choice made him feel stronger, braver, and ready for whatever came next. After helping the elderly man with his flat tire, he continued on his way, but the encounter stayed in his mind. It wasn't just the act of helping, it was the way the man had looked at him, the sincere gratitude that seemed to fill his eyes. That look made the young man feel something he hadn't felt in a long time, a deep sense of purpose. He had been so focused on his own ambitions, rushing from one task to another, that he rarely stopped to notice the people around him. Today had been different. Today he had slowed down even for just a few minutes, and in doing so, he had connected with another human being. The bus ride to the office district felt longer than usual. He pressed his forehead against the cool glass of the window and watched the city wake up. People were walking briskly, cars honking, and the streets filled with the usual chaos of morning routines. He thought about how everyone seemed to be moving in their own world, too focused on deadlines, appointments, and responsibilities. Most would probably never stop to help a stranger, but he had, and for some reason that gave him a quiet satisfaction. By the time he arrived near the office, he realized he had missed the interview. The receptionist had already closed the door for the morning session, and he was too late to reschedule for the same day. His stomach sank and a wave of disappointment washed over him. He had waited months for this opportunity, rehearsed every answer, and dreamed of this moment. Now all of that seemed to slip away because he had stopped to help someone else. A sense of frustration and guilt mingled with the lingering satisfaction from his act of kindness. He felt torn. He sat on a bench nearby, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He thought about the choice he had made that morning. On one hand, he had followed his heart and done something good for another person. On the other, he had missed an opportunity that could have changed his life. His mind replayed the moments by the roadside. The man struggling with the tire, his own hands working to lift it, the grateful smile that had met him when the job was done. He realized that while he had lost the interview, he hadn't lost his sense of who he was or what he stood for. As he sat there, he remembered the lessons his family had taught him growing up. His parents always emphasized kindness and helping others even when it wasn't easy. "Opportunities will come and go," his mother used to say, "but the way you treat people stays with you forever." He thought about her words now and felt a sense of reassurance. Maybe this was one of those moments where doing the right thing mattered more than timing or luck. Still, he couldn't shake the worry. What if this had cost him everything? What if the company had already moved on, filled the position, and he had lost his chance forever? The anxiety was heavy, but he tried to focus on what he could control. He reminded himself that life had a way of working out, often in unexpected ways. Sometimes a delay wasn't a failure. It was simply a pause before something better came along. While he sat lost in thought, he noticed a small coffee shop across the street. The warm aroma of fresh coffee wafted through the air, mixing with the sounds of the city. Feeling the need to clear his mind, he walked inside. The shop was cozy, with soft music playing and a few early customers scattered at tables, sipping their drinks and reading newspapers. He ordered a cup of black coffee, hoping the warmth and familiar taste would calm his nerves. He found a seat by the window and took a deep breath. The city moved outside, unaware of the small drama unfolding in his life. He thought about the elderly man again, wondering if he had reached his destination safely, if he had made it to his meeting or appointment without further trouble. He realized how fragile life could be, how one small event like a flat tire could disrupt plans, yet also create moments of connection that might never have happened otherwise. As he sipped his coffee, he began reflecting on his own journey. Growing up, he had faced many challenges. His family had struggled financially, and he had learned early on that nothing was guaranteed. Every opportunity had to be earned. Every success had to be fought for. Yet in that fight, he often had to choose between self-interest and doing what felt morally right. Today had been one of those moments, and while the immediate reward had slipped through his fingers, he felt a strange sense of pride. He had chosen to help someone without expecting anything in return. After a while, he pulled out his phone and scrolled through messages from friends and family. Many were checking in about the interview, asking if he had made it on time. He hesitated, unsure how to respond. Finally, he sent a simple message. "I missed it, but it was worth it. I helped someone today." Almost immediately, replies came back, some shocked, some supportive, some teasing. But one response stood out. "Good things come to good people. Don't worry. Keep your head up." It was a reminder that even when things seemed lost, kindness had a way of coming back around. Finishing his coffee, he decided to walk back through the streets, giving himself time to think. The city was alive, people rushing past, yet he felt strangely at peace. He noticed small details he usually overlooked. The sound of children playing in a nearby park, the way the sunlight glinted off buildings, the smell of fresh bread from a bakery. These small moments of life reminded him that not everything was about deadlines and success. Sometimes it was about noticing the world and the people in it, even for a brief moment. As he walked, he realized that his act of kindness might have consequences he couldn't yet imagine. Helping the elderly man might have seemed small at the moment, but he sensed that it could open doors in ways he didn't yet see. Life had a mysterious way of rewarding people, not always immediately, but often in ways that were meaningful and lasting. He felt a flicker of hope that the story wasn't over, that somehow this morning had set the stage for something bigger. By the time he returned home, he felt tired but calmer. The morning had been an emotional roller coaster. Anticipation, excitement, worry, disappointment, and finally, quiet reflection. He prepared a simple breakfast and sat at the kitchen table, replaying the events of the day. He thought about the man's words, "You're a good person. Don't ever let anyone make you feel otherwise." Those words lingered in his mind. They were simple yet powerful. In a world that often rewarded self-interest, it was rare to encounter genuine gratitude and recognition for an act of kindness. He decided to spend the rest of the day productively, even though he had missed the interview. He updated his resume, polished his portfolio, and sent follow-up emails to other companies, keeping his options open. Despite the disappointment, he refused to dwell on what had gone wrong. Instead, he focused on what he could do next, maintaining his determination and resilience. Later that evening, he sat on his small balcony, watching the sun set over the city skyline. The sky was painted with shades of orange and pink, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of nearby trees. He reflected on the day's lessons, the importance of patience, the value of helping others, and the reminder that life didn't always follow the schedule we planned. He felt a sense of peace, knowing he had made a choice that aligned with his values, even if it had temporarily cost him an opportunity. As night fell, he went to bed with a mix of hope and curiosity. He didn't know what the next day would bring, but he felt confident that his life was on a path that would eventually lead him to the right opportunities. The small act of helping a stranger had reminded him of what truly mattered: compassion, integrity, and human connection. Little did he know, the man he had helped that morning was not just anyone. He was a person who had the power to influence his future in ways he could never have imagined. That simple choice to stop and lend a hand would set in motion events that could change his life forever. For now, though, he focused on living with kindness, knowing that every small act could ripple out in ways that might not be immediately visible, but could eventually lead to extraordinary results. The day had started as a simple rush toward a career opportunity, and ended with a quiet, unexpected lesson about life, humanity, and the power of doing the right thing. And as he drifted off to sleep, he felt a strange sense of anticipation, unaware that his life was about to take a turn he could never have predicted. The next morning, he woke up feeling a mix of hope and anxiety. The memory of missing the interview still lingered, but he tried to remind himself that life often had unexpected ways of working out. He had done the right thing, and though it had cost him a chance, he hoped that it might lead to something else, something meaningful that he couldn't yet see. As he got ready for the day, he felt the familiar nervous excitement that came with new possibilities, even if the exact path was unclear. He left his apartment and started walking toward the office district, this time with no bus to catch, no rush against time. The streets were quiet in the morning light, and he noticed details he usually overlooked: the chirping of birds, the laughter of children on their way to school, the way the sun reflected off shop windows. The city was alive, moving around him, but he felt a sense of calm. He had learned that sometimes it was better to slow down, even when life seemed urgent. As he approached the office building where his interview was supposed to take place, his stomach tightened. The doors were closed and a sign indicated that the morning session had ended. He sighed, feeling the familiar pang of disappointment. He had imagined this moment countless times, and now it had slipped through his fingers. For a brief moment, he felt the weight of failure pressing down, and he wondered if his decision to help the elderly man had been worth it. He stepped back, leaning against the side of the building, and took a deep breath. He reminded himself of the lessons he had learned growing up, the importance of patience, integrity, and kindness. He had chosen to do what was right, even at personal cost. That choice, he knew, reflected his character more than any interview ever could. He closed his eyes for a moment, imagining himself continuing to grow, learn, and face challenges with courage and honesty. As he opened his eyes, he noticed a few employees walking out of the building, talking about their day. Some glanced at him curiously, probably wondering why someone was lingering outside a closed office. He straightened his posture, trying to appear calm and composed. He had always believed that how he carried himself mattered, and today was no different. He might have missed the opportunity to impress the interviewers, but he could still make an impression elsewhere. He decided to wait nearby, thinking he might find a way to reach out to the company. Perhaps a phone call or an email could help explain his situation, though he knew that arriving late for an interview was often frowned upon. He pulled out his phone and drafted a message, carefully choosing his words. He explained that he had been delayed due to helping someone in need, and expressed his continued interest in the position. After rereading it several times, he pressed send, feeling a mix of hope and apprehension. While waiting for a response, he wandered through the nearby streets, taking in the sights and sounds of the city. He passed a small park where an elderly woman was feeding birds. Children were playing and couples were walking hand in hand. He noticed the small acts of kindness happening around him. Someone holding a door open, a street vendor offering free water to a passerby, a pedestrian helping a lost tourist find directions. These small moments reminded him that the world was full of people who cared, even if it didn't always seem that way. He stopped at a bench and sat down, reflecting on his own life. The struggles he had faced growing up had shaped him, taught him resilience, and given him empathy for others. He remembered the times when someone had helped him, when a kind word or gesture had made a difference in a difficult moment. Today he had been the one to offer that help, and though it had come at a personal cost, he felt a sense of fulfillment. It reminded him that life was not just about personal gain, but also about the impact we had on others. As he sat there, he noticed a man struggling with heavy grocery bags nearby. Without thinking, he stood up and offered to help. The man gratefully accepted, and they walked together for a few blocks until the bags were safely delivered. The young man realized that kindness was not a one-time act, it was a habit, a way of living. Each small gesture had the potential to create a ripple effect, touching lives in ways that might never be fully seen. Eventually, he returned to the office building, hoping for some sign of a response. His phone buzzed with a message notification and he quickly opened it. It was from the company's HR department. His heart raced as he read the words. They had received his message and were impressed by his honesty and integrity. While the morning session was over, they wanted to arrange a meeting with him the next day. The relief and excitement he felt were overwhelming. He couldn't help but smile, realizing that his decision to help the elderly man had not closed doors. It had opened them in unexpected ways. That evening, he went home with a renewed sense of purpose. He prepared for the upcoming meeting, reviewing his notes and researching the company in greater detail. He felt a sense of determination, knowing that he had a second chance. But this time, he also carried with him a deeper understanding of what truly mattered: character, empathy, and the willingness to act with integrity, even when it was inconvenient. As he lay in bed that night, he reflected on the day's events. Missing the interview had been painful, but it had also been a lesson. He realized that life did not always reward punctuality or ambition alone. Sometimes it rewarded kindness, courage, and the ability to see beyond oneself. He thought about the elderly man he had helped and the small moments of connection that had made the morning unforgettable. It was a reminder that every action, no matter how small, could have a lasting impact. The next day, he arrived at the office building early, dressed neatly and carrying his portfolio. The receptionist greeted him warmly, recognizing him from the previous message he had sent. She explained that the interview panel had been impressed by his integrity and wanted to hear more about his experiences and skills. His heart swelled with gratitude and anticipation as he was led to the conference room. Inside, he met the panel of interviewers. They asked questions about his background, his goals, and how he handled challenges. He answered honestly, sharing stories from his life that demonstrated his perseverance, empathy, and determination. He could feel their attention and interest, and for the first time, he felt that his character was as important as his qualifications. The questions shifted toward hypothetical scenarios, and he explained how he would approach difficult situations with fairness and compassion. The panel seemed engaged, nodding and taking notes, and he felt a sense of connection with them. After the formal part of the interview ended, one of the panel members asked casually about a recent experience that had shaped him. He hesitated for a moment, then shared the story of helping the elderly man with the flat tire. He described how he had chosen to stop and assist, even though it meant risking his interview. He spoke about the gratitude he had received and the lessons he had learned about kindness and responsibility. The room was silent for a moment, and then the panelists exchanged glances. One of them smiled and said, "That's remarkable. It's not often that we see such integrity and empathy in someone so young. It tells us a lot about your character and the values you bring to the table." The young man felt a warmth in his chest, a mix of pride and relief. He realized that his choice to help someone in need had not only preserved his integrity, but had also become a powerful example of the person he truly was. As he left the building, he felt a sense of accomplishment and anticipation. The day had started with disappointment, fear, and uncertainty, but it had ended with hope and affirmation. He knew that life was unpredictable, and that sometimes the right choice required patience, courage, and trust in the unknown. He walked through the streets feeling lighter and more confident than he had in a long time. That evening, he sat at his small kitchen table reflecting on the journey so far. He thought about the people who had influenced him, the lessons he had learned, and the moments that had defined his character. He realized that success was not measured solely by opportunities seized or interviews attended, but by the way one treated others and stayed true to personal values. The story of helping the elderly man had become a turning point, a reminder that life often rewarded integrity and compassion in ways that were not immediately visible. As night fell, he prepared for sleep, feeling a quiet sense of anticipation for the future. He didn't know exactly what awaited him, but he trusted that his choices and actions would guide him toward the right path. He had learned that life's rewards were not always immediate, but that patience, integrity, and kindness often led to meaningful and lasting outcomes. And as he drifted off to sleep, he felt a renewed sense of purpose, unaware that the man he had helped earlier that week was about to play a significant role in his life, one that would change everything in ways he could never have imagined. The day after his interview, he tried to focus on his routine, but his mind kept wandering back to the elderly man he had helped. The memory of the grateful smile, the small words of encouragement, and the quiet sense of connection lingered in his thoughts. He had done what he believed was right, and now he had shared that story with the interview panel. He couldn't know it yet, but that decision was about to change everything. Late in the morning, his phone rang. He nearly dropped it in surprise, seeing an unfamiliar number on the screen. He hesitated for a moment, then answered. "Hello, is this you?" said a calm, confident voice. "I'm calling from the company where you interviewed yesterday. My name is Richard, and I am the CEO." His heart skipped a beat. He could hardly believe it. The voice on the other end was kind but carried a weight of authority. "Yes, this is me," he managed to say, his voice a little shaky. I'm glad to hear from you." Richard continued. "I wanted to personally thank you for helping me the other morning. I was the man with the flat tire. Your kindness left a deep impression on me. I've spoken to the HR team, and we would like to meet you again, not just for the position you applied for, but for an opportunity that I believe suits you perfectly." For a moment, he didn't know what to say. The reality of the situation slowly sank in. The very person he had helped, someone he hadn't even known, was the CEO of the company he had dreamed of working for. The significance of his actions hit him like a wave, a mixture of awe, relief, and disbelief. Are you serious?" he finally asked, his voice trembling slightly. "Yes, I am," Richard replied warmly. "I want to meet with you today if possible. Can you come to my office?" The young man felt a rush of excitement and nerves. He quickly agreed, promising to arrive as soon as possible. After hanging up, he sat for a moment, trying to absorb what had just happened. His mind raced with questions. How had he been so close to missing this connection? Could his simple act of kindness really lead to an opportunity like this? And most importantly, how should he conduct himself now that the stakes were even higher? He got dressed carefully, making sure he looked presentable and professional. As he left his apartment, he replayed the events of the past few days in his mind. The encounter by the roadside, the missed interview, and now this unexpected call. All of it seemed surreal. He reminded himself to stay calm and focused. This meeting was not just about a job. It was about showing who he truly was, both in character and skill. As he approached the building, he felt a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. The receptionist greeted him warmly, recognizing him from the previous interview. She led him to an elevator and told him to wait on the top floor. His heart pounded as the elevator doors closed and the buttons lit up, carrying him toward an unknown but exciting future. When he entered the CEO's office, he was struck by the calm, professional atmosphere. The room was spacious, with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. Richard stood to greet him, smiling warmly. "Please have a seat," Richard said. "I wanted to meet with you personally because I value integrity and character as much as skill. The story of how you helped me shows qualities that are rare and important in this world. That kind of person is exactly who we want in our company." The young man sat down, feeling a mix of humility and pride. He realized that his choice to stop and help someone, even at the risk of missing an important interview, had demonstrated his true character. He hadn't acted for recognition or reward. He had acted because it was the right thing to do, and now, unexpectedly, that act was opening doors he had only dreamed of. Richard continued, "I understand that you missed your initial interview, but after hearing your story and reviewing your application, I want to offer you a position that matches your talents. This role will challenge you, provide room for growth, and allow you to make a real impact in the company." The young man listened carefully, feeling a surge of emotion. He tried to focus, nodding and asking questions about the role, the responsibilities, and the team he would work with. He wanted to make sure he understood what was expected of him and how he could contribute. The more he learned, the more excited he became. It wasn't just a job. It was an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to make a difference. As the conversation continued, Richard shared more about his own experiences, how he had built the company, the challenges he had faced, and the importance of integrity and leadership. The young man realized that this meeting was about more than just employment. It was a mentorship opportunity, a chance to learn from someone who had achieved what he aspired to reach. At one point, Richard leaned back in his chair and said, "You know, the world often rewards those who act with kindness and integrity, even when it's inconvenient. Your actions reminded me that character is something that can't be taught in a classroom or on a resume. It's something that shows itself in real-life moments like the one we shared." The young man felt a lump in his throat. He had never imagined that a simple act of helping someone with a flat tire could have such profound consequences. It was a reminder that every choice mattered, and that doing the right thing, even when no one is watching, could lead to extraordinary results. By the end of the meeting, he felt a sense of relief, excitement, and determination. Richard offered him the position, explaining the benefits, opportunities for growth, and the company's expectations. The young man accepted with gratitude, promising to work hard, stay true to his values, and make the most of this chance. As he left the office, he walked through the city streets with a new sense of purpose. The morning had started with a simple act of kindness, and now it had led to a life-changing opportunity. He thought about how unpredictable life could be, how small choices could ripple outward and create outcomes far beyond what he could imagine. He realized that this experience was more than just a career breakthrough. It was a lesson in life. Helping others, acting with integrity, and staying true to oneself could open doors in ways that luck or timing alone never could. He felt grateful for the opportunity, but also for the values that had guided him to this moment. That evening, he sat in his small apartment, reflecting on the journey so far. He thought about the elderly man, the missed interview, the lessons he had learned, and the unexpected call that had changed everything. He realized that life's rewards often came not to those who rushed, but to those who acted with courage, kindness, and patience. He decided to write down his thoughts in a journal, hoping to remember the lessons of this week. He wanted to remind himself that no matter how busy or stressful life became, there was always room for empathy, generosity, and integrity. These were the qualities that would guide him, not just in his career but in life. The next few days were filled with preparation for his new role. He researched the company, studied the industry, and began planning ways to contribute meaningfully. Yet, throughout it all, he carried with him the memory of that simple morning, the moment when he had chosen to help a stranger instead of rushing toward his own goals. That choice had defined him, opened doors, and set him on a path he could never have predicted. One afternoon, as he walked past a park on his way home from a preparatory meeting, he saw an older woman struggling to carry her groceries. Without hesitation, he walked over to help her. She looked up, startled at first, but then smiled gratefully. As he carried her bags a few blocks, he felt the same sense of fulfillment he had felt with the elderly man, whose flat tire he had fixed. He realized that kindness wasn't a one-time act. It was a habit, a way of living that shaped who he was and how he interacted with the world. That evening, he shared his story with a close friend over the phone. He talked about the call from the CEO, the job offer, and the lessons he had learned. His friend listened, amazed, and said, "Wow, that's incredible. You literally helped someone without knowing who they were, and it changed your life." The young man smiled, feeling a quiet sense of pride. He knew that the change wasn't just about the job. It was about the values that had guided him to that moment. As he prepared for his first day in the new role, he felt a mixture of excitement and humility. He was about to start a journey that promised growth, challenges, and opportunities to make a difference. But he also carried with him the knowledge that character mattered more than any title or paycheck. The morning he had chosen to stop and help a man with a flat tire had shown him that integrity and kindness could shape destiny in ways that no plan or schedule could predict. Went to bed that night with a sense of peace, knowing that his life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. The future was uncertain, but he trusted that his choices, guided by compassion and integrity, would continue to lead him toward meaningful opportunities and experiences. He drifted off to sleep, unaware of just how significant that simple act of kindness had become, not just for him, but for the life he was about to build. The young man's first day in his new role began with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He woke up early, carefully dressed, and rehearsed what he would say and how he would present himself. Though he had been through interviews before, nothing compared to this moment. This time he was not just applying for a job. He was stepping into an opportunity that had come from an act of kindness, an act that had defined him more than any resume or skill ever could. As he arrived at the company, he was greeted by the receptionist, who led him to the office floor where he would work. The atmosphere was busy but not chaotic. Colleagues moved with purpose, helping each other and working collaboratively. He noticed the CEO's presence in the background, not distant or unapproachable, but observant and engaged. He felt a subtle sense of reassurance. He was joining a company that valued people, integrity, and teamwork. His first tasks involved learning about the company's processes, familiarizing himself with projects, and understanding the expectations of his role. It was challenging, but he approached each task with focus and determination. He wanted to prove that he deserved this opportunity, not because he had helped someone in need, but because he had the skills, the mindset, and the integrity to succeed. Throughout the day, he found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought him here. He remembered the morning he had stopped to help the elderly man with the flat tire, the missed interview, and the unexpected call that had changed everything. Each step seemed connected, as if life had guided him to this moment because of the choices he had made, the patience he had shown, and the kindness he had offered without expectation. During lunch, one of his colleagues approached him, curious about his story. She had heard about the CEO's call and wanted to know how he had ended up with such a unique opportunity. He shared the story simply, without exaggeration, focusing on the lessons he had learned about integrity, empathy, and human connection. She listened intently, impressed by both the narrative and the calm, reflective way he told it. "I've never heard anything like that," she said. "Most people wouldn't have stopped. You didn't just help someone, you changed your own life in the process." He smiled quietly, feeling a mix of pride and humility. He realized that while the opportunity was extraordinary, it was also a reminder that character mattered more than timing, luck, or even talent. Doing the right thing had brought him here, but it was up to him to make the most of it. The days turned into weeks, and he settled into the role with growing confidence. He learned quickly, asked questions when necessary, and contributed ideas that impressed his team. But more importantly, he carried the lessons from his life experience into his work. He treated colleagues with respect, offered help when needed, and maintained a sense of humility even as he excelled. His actions spoke as loudly as his results, and slowly, he began to earn the trust and admiration of his peers. One afternoon, he was called into the CEO's office. Richard greeted him warmly and gestured for him to sit. "I've been observing your progress," Richard said. "You've shown skill, dedication, and a remarkable sense of integrity. I want you to know that your actions here have not gone unnoticed. I see leadership potential in you, not just for technical tasks, but for inspiring others and shaping the culture of this company." The young man listened, astonished but grateful. He realized that his life had changed, not because of a single job or opportunity, but because of the values he had carried with him into every interaction. He had chosen to help someone when it was inconvenient, and now those same qualities were being recognized and rewarded in ways he had never imagined. I don't know what to say," he admitted. "I'm just trying to do my best and make a positive difference." Richard smiled. "That's exactly what I want in this company. People who act with integrity, compassion, and responsibility. You've already shown that." Now we can build on it together." In the following months, the young man continued to grow in the company. He took on more responsibilities, led projects, and mentored newer colleagues. His ability to connect with people, offer support, and remain calm under pressure made him a natural leader. The lessons from his past, the struggles he had faced, the kindness he had shown, and the setbacks he had endured, shaped the way he approached challenges. He realized that his journey had not been a straight line. It had been a series of choices, each teaching him something valuable and preparing him for the future. Outside of work, he continued to carry the principles he had learned. He offered help to strangers, volunteered in his community, and supported friends and family whenever he could. He understood that success was not just about personal achievement, but about the impact one could have on the world and the people around them. Each act of kindness reinforced the values that had brought him to where he was, and he felt a sense of fulfillment that went beyond money or recognition. One day, he ran into a young man struggling with a broken bicycle by the side of the road. Without hesitation, he stopped and offered assistance, just as he had done months ago with the elderly man. As he helped repair the bike, he thought about how small gestures could create lasting ripples in life. The young man riding away with a smile reminded him that kindness never truly goes unnoticed, even when it seems insignificant. His story eventually spread within the company. Colleagues often mentioned the incident with the CEO's flat tire as an example of character and integrity. New employees looked up to him, not just for his work ethic, but for the way he carried himself with honesty, empathy, and respect. He realized that the reputation he had built wasn't about achievements on paper. It was about the choices he had made and the way he treated people along the way. Months turned into a year, and he had grown into a confident, capable professional. He often reflected on the journey that had brought him here. The morning he had stopped to help the elderly man with a flat tire, the missed interview, the unexpected call. It all seemed like a turning point that defined his career and his values. He had learned that life often rewards those who act with integrity, even when the outcome is uncertain. And that kindness could open doors in ways nothing else could. One evening, as he left the office, he noticed a small act of kindness on the street, a young woman helping an elderly neighbor carry groceries. He paused for a moment, smiled, and felt a deep sense of connection to the world. Life, he realized, was made up of these small moments, and each choice had the potential to shape not just one life, but many. He walked home that night feeling content. His career was flourishing, yes, but more importantly, he had grown as a person. He had learned that success was not only about opportunities seized, but about the way one approached life, faced challenges, and treated others. His journey was a reminder that integrity, empathy, and kindness were not just values to aspire to, they were actions that could change lives. Looking back, he realized that everything had started with one simple decision: to stop and help a man in need. That choice had created a chain of events that led to mentorship, growth, and a fulfilling career. But more than that, it had taught him that life's true rewards often come from doing the right thing, even when it seems inconvenient or risky. It was a lesson he would carry with him forever, guiding his choices, his work, and his interactions with others. And so, as he settled into the rhythm of his new life, successful, respected, and fulfilled, he remained grounded in the values that had brought him here. Each day was an opportunity to continue learning, helping, and growing. The act of kindness that had seemed small at the time had created a lasting impact, showing that one moment of compassion could indeed change the course of a life. He understood now that life wasn't just about reaching goals or climbing the ladder of success. It was about the connections we make, the help we give, and the integrity we maintain even when no one is watching. That understanding made every day meaningful, every choice significant, and every interaction an opportunity to make a difference. As he prepared for the next day at work, he reflected on how far he had come, from the young man rushing to an interview, to someone who had discovered the power of empathy, integrity, and patience. He smiled to himself, knowing that his journey was just beginning, and that the lessons he had learned would continue to shape his future in ways that were both profound and lasting. And in that quiet moment, he felt a deep sense of gratitude for the people who had influenced him, the challenges that had tested him, and the opportunities that had arisen from his simple choice to help someone in need. He realized that life's true treasures were not always material. They were found in compassion, integrity, and the difference one could make in the lives of others. He went to bed that night, at peace, knowing that the story of his journey, the act of kindness, the missed opportunity, the unexpected mentorship, and the personal growth, was a testament to the idea that doing good, even when inconvenient, can lead to extraordinary and lasting change.